Time now for the Educated Retirement Show with your host, Jay Kaplan. Jay discusses reverse mortgages and can answer your questions at 951-922-3532. Call lines are open at 951-922-3532. And now, here's Jay.
Yes, here's Jay. And by the way, they are my opinions, in case anybody cares about that. And welcome back, everyone, please, to the Educated Retirement Radio here on KMET 1490 AM, where we contemplate retirement and how to best prepare for retirement and how to best stay successfully retired. So happy 4th of July, America, and that includes everyone. And please stay safe this weekend and all of the time, for that matter. Now, today we are going to dedicate a bunch of this show to what America loves best, conspiracies and UFOs, whether you think of them as unidentified flying objects or unflushable objects. They are out there. So, other than being able to celebrate our nation's birthdays, we do have conspiracies and Bigfoot, the moon, and you name it. And Chris Bissonnette, we've been here several times, and especially talked about Stanley Kubrick and the moon landing. So there's more about Chris Bissonnette coming up. But please call, email, or visit www.drheckham.com. That's drhecm.com. Or just email me, bestloantoday@gmail.com. bestloantoday@gmail.com. And when you're over there, just look at the signature part of the... Well, I'll email you back with that. But if you go to the website above, about halfway down the front page is a link that will take you to watching these shows live, or actually it's a link straight over to KMET. And there is also a link to the YouTube channel where all the shows are. Give me a day or two so that I get them and we're able to put them up there. And some shorter, more, humorous little bits and pieces. And I also have the parts on there that are only the guests. So if you want to concentrate on what the guest had to say, and hopefully they all have something wonderful to remember. And give me a call, 866-955-2233, 866-955-2233, because knowledge is power. And when it comes to the HECM, home equity conversion mortgage or reverse, know the facts, compare the numbers. It's much too important an issue to ignore, and you don't want to eliminate it based on not understanding it or anything else in life. So remember that equity availability programs like this are not a belief system. It's not a religion. It's just math with a lot of flexibility and warmth. So, why? Because those people who have a mortgage are asking for forbearance right now. You know, those with a HELOC are seeing those HELOCs frozen and new ones are not even available. The home equity conversion and other reverse products are available with or without line of credit, and those lines of credit can never be canceled or frozen. Never. And forbearance is a non-issue because you always make payments if you want to, or interest-only payments. So we gave it a new name. I'll keep repeating it, the Intelligent Retirement Forbearance Loan. And do I have a day job, we hope? Yes, I do. Loan officer at the Loan Source. My NMLS number is 384565. And my Department of Real Estate number, I don't sell real estate, but please let me know and I can hook you up with a good person in your area or the area you're looking to buy in. But that number is 792-630. And as you already know, we believe in challenging the status quo, and families and people need to be active, not reactive. So do I have a Miss Engineer? Do I have a hot dog to show? No. All right. Well, you know what? I said I lost 40 pounds. I went to the doctor yesterday. I lost another 10 pounds. So there you go. July is National Hot Dog Month. And of course, we need to celebrate. And hot dogs are as American as America is American. So this National Hot Dog Month began in 1956. And Americans, oh, okay. Well, this is frozen, but I could still eat it if I were hungry enough, okay? So Americans consume, I like that's a fancier word, consume 20 million hot dogs a year, or about 70 weenies per year. You like hot dogs, Sean?
Yeah, I like the all beef ones, especially.
Yeah, well, they is good. So there was a food truck called Tokyo Dog Food Truck. It served the most expensive weenie, $170 Juni dog, Juuni, where all the proceeds went to the Red Cross. It was $170, and it was made up of beef, of cheese bratwurst, onions, Wagyu beef, foie gras, black truffles, and caviar. So I somehow think I would rather have all those things separately, but so be it. So we can line up for that. But we want to get on with it now because we want to bring Chris on at the end so we can get to talk about the greatest conspiracies we know. So let's take a short break and see you in a bit. Okay, I am now getting my, not a uniform, what do you call this?
Feelers.
No, I know it's feelers, but you know, my outfit, my costume, that's what I'm trying to say. This, this is my costume for today's famous birthday of Franz Kafka. Anyway, I think I said welcome back to the Educated Retirement. And if you didn't want to call me before, I'm sure you do now with my feelers on. 866-955-2233, DrHECM.com. And today is Franz Kafka's birthday. He blew in 1883, and he flew away in 1924. German-speaking Bohemian born in Prague, who became one of the major figures of 20th century literature. And I believe I was made to read at least one book, but I've read several. He was trained as a lawyer and then as an insurance agent who wrote novels and stories in his spare time. He had a few meaningful quotes. One is, "The meaning of life is that it stops." No kidding. And you are free, and that is why you are lost. Well, that could be. I am a cage in search of a bird. I really like that guy, Paul Thomas Anderson's father, what he said. Nostalgia ain't what it used to be, but that's another story. So my feelers are on for the book, the novel Metamorphosis. And that was very easy for me to personalize when I read it, because I am a salesman, and it was about a salesman who turned into a cockroach, or a 6-foot-long cockroach. Now, there was also the trial, and the trial was made into a film. Let me show you this real quick. This is a graphic novel of the trial, and no, they didn't. Franz Kafka did not write that as a graphic novel, but I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, it was made into a film in 1962, starring Anthony Perkins by Orson Welles. And he probably wrote that screenplay, as most of our listeners know, at Musso and Frank. Orson has said that the trial film was the best film he had ever done, even surpassing Citizen Kane. I'm not sure about that, but that's what he said. That's what he said. Now, George Sanders is another one that popped out on this day in 1906, and he fell off the edge in 1972. And I starred in over 50 films and so much television. He starred in 5 Saint films and also on TV as the Saint until Roger Moore took over in 1969. Now, we have to admit that he was pretty diversified as far as background is concerned. When he was in college, he studied textile research. Then he worked as at an advertising agency. He managed a tobacco plantation in South America. He was a ghostwriter for crime novels and even recorded an album on which he sang even a song he wrote himself. Now, of course, I have William Shatner singing. I have, who are these other people we have singing? Leonard Nimoy singing stuff. Roger Dangerfield, of course.
Rick Moran.
Anyway, so he started on the stage in England, and his smooth, we're not talking about me, although we certainly could, smooth and suave demeanor and superior and somewhat threatening air put him in demand for American film. That's what they say. Okay, he was in a bunch of films. And let's start off with some of the ones that come to mind first. Children of the Damned. This happens to be a laser disc with Village of the Damned and a sequel, or like movie, which was called, I don't even remember what it was called. Yeah, Children of the Damned. Not as good as Village of the Damned, but it was pretty nice. It was pretty good. Picture of Dorian Gray, and again I show these because they have bigger pictures, and there he is standing with his head above the rest. And Rebecca. Now, I love this movie. And if people ever ask me what's my favorite Alfred Hitchcock film, it would be either Vertigo or Rebecca. Although Rebecca was done at the Selznick studio, and actually it was Hitchcock's first American venture, and he didn't have a lot of as much say over things as he would have wanted. But I think the friction between him and Selznick had a lot to do with how good it ended up. He also did Foreign Correspondent, and we're talking about Sanders here, won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in All About Eve. Now, in the Saint films, he did those, and then the Falcon films. And like the Saint, and that's what I'm trying to say. I like both of those. I think they're just really entertaining. And lots of times they're on Turner Classic Movies on Saturday mornings, that kind of thing. His brother Tom Conway took over the Falcon films. Tom Conway was kind of the good guy side. He had the same kind of accent and demeanor, almost, but he seemed like such a nice guy. And Tom Conway was in several of the Val Lewton films that we love. And I could do a whole show on Val Lewton, but what Val Lewton did were described as horror films, but actually more low-budget RKO psychological thrillers, including a couple of them that Tom Conway was in, and he could be in more. Cat People, The Seventh Victim. And as for George himself, don't forget From the Earth to the Moon. And Ken Russell was born on this day in 1927, and he shipped off, or was offloaded in 2011, a British film director, both best known for his pioneering work and flamboyant style. And he was one of the first directors that really showed me that cinema could be a lot more than what I had thought it was until then. He was strange, but he was right on target with most things. He did this one, which I think could have been his most popular. I don't know. Altered States. He did Tommy. he did a film called Gothic, which had a lot to do with Mary Shelley and the bunch that were that hung out, and where she actually wrote Frankenstein. Didn't know I had that album, to tell you the truth. We just listened to it before the show. It's kind of strange, but I really liked it. The Devils, which was one about the plague, The Lair of the White Worm, and several films on some favorite composers. I already said one of his favorite authors. He had done that one with Gothic. The Music Lovers was really my first introduction to him. That was about Tchaikovsky. And then he did Mahler, which was played against another film that portrayed Mahler much differently, and that was called Death in Venice. And that was not a big kind of a novella that was written by Thomas Mann, if you want me to be fancy. And the film was Visconti on Mahler, and really made the Adagio or Adagito very popular. But it was such a different look at it. It was like Russell was just really getting back at Visconti. So this is another one that he had done. I think this was done for the BBC. Actually, he just put together the music of the planets, and put his own pictures or drew pictures and things to put on with it. So remember, the X-Files is something you want to believe, but you don't want to believe the Black Swan, which we seem to have found right now. So you need to know how much more you can protect yourself with a retirement mortgage, retired or not. Call me. On that note, it's time to take a little break. Thanks so much. See you soon. Well, hello again, and hope you missed us for about a minute or so there. Welcome back to the Educated Retirement Radio here on KMET. And just before we bring Chris Bissonnette on, and remember, like I said before, you can find Chris at chrisbissonnette.com. It's that easy. And he's going to do that and spell it all out for you here in a minute. No, he's not. We're not going to be talking business when he's on there.
Yeah,
so
no spelling bee today.
No, but he is better than any college professor or dean when it comes to saving you a ton of money when sending your kids or grandkids to any school in the country, and I mean any. Now, we have NASA Nellie, so I would say take it away, NASA. Are you going to show yourself?
Well, I'll show them.
No, she's from Mars, I guess.
July 3rd has always been opening day for blockbuster feature films. Remember Back to the Future in 1985?
Yes.
Men in Black in 1997?
Yes.
Armageddon, 1998. And of course, Spielberg's War of the Worlds in 2005.
Come on, show yourself. We're talking about horrible things anyway.
But who can forget waiting for the blockbuster Independence Day, 1996? This was the second highest grossest film of all time, worldwide, second to Jurassic Park. That movie, there were references to the Roswell incident. In the next few days, many celebrate that infamous event at Roswell, New Mexico, 1947. Beginning with July 2nd, many witnesses saw an unusual flying craft over the skies of New Mexico. All was abuzz. On July 7th, something happened in northwest of Roswell during a severe thunderstorm. What was it? A crash of a flying saucer? The debris from this crash was recovered by rancher Mac Brazel and then gathered by the military under direction of Major Jesse Marcel. On July 8th, a press release was issued with Roswell Army Airfield captured a flying saucer from this crash, that the military had in their possession a real UFO. The next day, statement was another release that the statement from the previous day was actually incorrect. It was a weather balloon.
Right.
Thus begins the start of a best-known UFO cover-up, the Roswell incident, a crash of an alleged flying saucer along with recovery of debris and even extraterrestrial bodies, eventually later transported to Area 51. As part of this incident, there were threats by the military to citizens that had secretly taken wreckage. Reporters were muzzled and radio announcements were censored. Over 70 years later, lots of debates, documentaries, films, lots of research, and books were published on the event. Even an annual festival held in one of the most famous small cities in the United States. Quoting the film Independence Day, the president, Bill Pullman, says, "Sir, regardless of what you may have read in the tabloids, there has never been any spacecraft recovered by our government. Take my word for it. There's no Area 51. There's no recovered spaceship."
Sure.
The U.S. Secretary of Defense says, "Mr. President, that's not entirely accurate."
But everything you're about to hear right now is absolutely accurate. I know Chris brings up nothing unless it's completely proved, and I believe all of it. So we're going to get right to that. So let me say goodbye to the Facebook people. Goodbye. And get on with our discussion about the beloved, or the best beloved conspiracies that we have. So, I mean, I know I could do anything like Sasquatch or Bigfoot, the moon, which, you know, you and I have talked about several times before. You know, so many other things.
Welcome back, everyone. Please do educate your retirement.
I am muted.
Where are you?
Where we contemplate retirement, how to best prepare for retirement, how to best
Do you have the radio in the back? You have something on the back, Chris?
No,
Get feedback.
no, that's not coming from me. That's not coming from me. Can you see me and hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. All right. No, I hear that too. It's like a radio or something. Maybe it was aliens.
Yeah. Let me talk to an alien. Kathleen? Do you have anything on, like your telephone or anything? Do you hear anything in the background?
I hear like a radio or something in the
Yeah.
background.
Well, you know what
I'm
that
muting.
means?
I'm muting.
That means that the aliens are listening to our show. Okay? And I think we pissed them off because they know we're listening and they just left us. So poop on them, right? That's the way I see it. So what do you think? You think we're going straight to Bigfoot or the moon landing? Or you had another suggestion. What was that? You know.
Oh, talk about COVID-19. Well, I think that's too political for your crowd.
Yeah.
But I still think the moon is interesting to talk about, just for the fact that we recently launched that rocket with Elon Musk.
Oh yeah, the mouse. You were talking about the mouse.
And they made a big deal about it. And my point was, okay, so in 69, we sent men to the moon, and now we're sending men to the Mir space station. Is that where they went?
Uh-huh.
And that's like
Well, the
1/1000th of the distance.
International- Yeah, the International Space Station.
Whatever it was. It's
Yeah.
1/1000. It's 240 miles. But we could go 250,000 miles before, 50 years ago. Come on.
Yeah, I thought, like I said before, I thought that, you know, we'd be vacationing on Mars by now.
If we really went to the moon 50 years ago, yes, that would have been obvious next thing.
That is
go to
one of,
Mars.
I think that's one of the best arguments. Now either that or they were warned by aliens not to come back. I don't know. What do you think of that?
We never went. We don't have the
Okay.
technology today to go. We can't go to the moon today. Remember, it's 2024, and I've also seen in the last 6 months where NASA's like, there's no way we're going to be ready by 2024. So I think it's just a pipe dream. I still don't think we have the technology.
Okay. And I know there's a lot out there to talk about. The Stanley
Well, I do
Kubrick
like the
stuff.
Roswell. I like the Roswell,
Yeah.
thing that we're listening to. I mean, I believe they call Roswell the number 1 or number 2 greatest UFO incident in the United States.
I think it's the number one. Now, personally, I believe it 100%. How about you?
Well, I think it's proven fact now, much like Kennedy or the moon or any of these other conspiracy theories, which have become conspiracy facts, because there's just so much evidence. And more evidence every year keeps getting released. But let me ask you this, Jay,
Yeah.
since I mentioned it's the number 1 or 2 greatest UFO incident in U.S., you mentioned it was 1. Do you know what number 2 would be? Or at least what people consider as being...
I don't think so. I mean, I probably have heard of it, but which one?
The Phoenix Lights.
Ah, yeah.
Have you heard of that one?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Like a UFO literally went down like Scottsdale Road, like the main road, for like 2 hours,
Yeah.
where 100,000 people saw this V-shaped. So that's what they kind of call, as another major one. But
Yeah.
obviously they're both very different.
well, you know that
And
2 or
obviously a
3
crash
hours.
UFO.
2 or 3 hours after that event, planes went up from a local Air Force base or whatever, and dropped flares, and then they said it was always just flares. Now, flares.
Yeah, I'm sure Luke Air Force Base, which is right there.
Yeah, that's
sent them
just
up.
south, isn't it? Just south of
But-
the city.
It's right there. I used to actually go out to Luke Air Force Base back in 1996 and work with the Air Force on some of their
Mhm.
benefits. But it's just outside of Phoenix there. But I also heard that the Air Force said we didn't know what that was. They came out and said we didn't know what it was. So, and then I think the governor at the time actually came out and said we
Yeah.
think it was UFO.
Well,
and
he-
actually-
yeah.
Or he
Five-
brought an alien out. He brought an alien out kind of as a joke. You might remember that.
Yeah, Fife Symington. In fact, NASA
Yeah,
Nelly
Fife Symington.
gave a report on that last week or so.
Uh,
And he tried to make fun of it, but then later, no, he had seen it himself. But
Yeah,
he
he
didn't
believed-
want to admit it.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
then.
yeah.
But after he got out of office, then he's more than willing to be honest,
Well,
Typical.
the new information on Roswell, I would say, or at least compelling information, is a lot of these deathbed confessions.
Mhm.
People who work at the base that are like 89, and they're like, "I was there. We were walking through the guy's ranch."
Yeah. Now, this book here is actually about all of those reports, witness to Roswell. So people who were actually there.
Yeah, so I think that's the newest stuff that's kind of cool to see. And they're basically just corroborating the same story that we heard originally whenever it first came out. And it seems to just be the same story. It's fascinating, though, that it appears a UFO had crashed on this ranch. Part was found at the ranch. The other half hit like a mountain where the alien bodies literally were laying
Is
outside
that
of it.
what they call Corona, New Mexico?
I don't know. It
Okay.
might be. But I will tell you one very interesting thing about if you believe in UFOs, which obviously the government recently declassified those 3 videos, basically saying we don't know what these are. So they kind of proves that they call them something else. They don't call them UFO, but they call them something.
Yeah, same thing,
Yeah, but they basically now kind of admitted that, or at least showed, hey, we're not sure what these things are. Well, if you believe in that, what's interesting is UFOs appear to come out when there's nuclear activity. So when we drop a nuke, UFOs appear.
Yep.
Roswell, New Mexico was the only place, I believe, on Earth that had nuclear weapons. And
Right. They were the only group of bombers that could do that. So
Okay.
they were all stored there, whether they admit it or not.
Well, they were, and I saw this guy. He actually, I believe, went under hypnosis. The guy who was like the general or the guy for the base that ran the base.
Uh-huh.
And he literally says that he's like the UFOs came. I think he said it was 2 of them, and they were shining a light, like a beam down, and they literally were shining it right where they were keeping the nukes. So he said he was petrified, kind of like, oh no, and this was under his hypnosis recount, like, oh my God, oh no, they saw him, like all concerned. So it's very interesting that, because again, as you know, aliens appear to kind of mess with the nuclear weapons and turn the controls on. They're
Here
they're in control, and they let us know that. Yeah, and you
here.
Yeah. Go ahead. And so plenty of
the ones here were in Montana, I believe it was, and they shut them down. I mean, they wouldn't. And the ones in Russia, they cranked them all up.
Interesting.
Ready to launch. So,
yeah, they appear to mess with controls and have the ability to do that. And I've actually seen press conferences where these guys have gotten together and said, we're all, heads of military, and here's what's going on. Aliens are real. They mess with us. They turn our controls on and off. So I find that to be also another thing that helps kind of tie the whole story together is, the whole nuclear weapon thing with aliens. Like they know.
Now, why don't you go over again about the remember the photograph with, I think it was General Ramey or whatever? Go.
You're right. So I think the smoking gun is what they refer to it as, is when Jesse Marcel had to do the staged photograph with a weather balloon. The General Ramey was there.
I think.
Yeah, it's Ramey. It is Ramey, though. He's holding in his hand like a memo, like whatever, a telegraph back then in the 40s or whatever, telegraph. Yeah. And you can literally, it's amazing. You can literally make out some of the words on this telegraph. And the words that were decipherable were, I believe, crash, victims. There was something else, like bodies or something. But just to me, any of those are just, that's a smoking gun to prove it, that the guy's holding a memo, and they basically deciphered it to say, hey, there's crash victims. We're sending everything off to this Patterson Air Base. Get it all packed up, So I believe it's 100% truth, and
I do too.
We'll see when that gets disclosed. But there's been a lot of UFO activity, and people film it all the time now with their cell phones.
Yeah. Now the guy, the officer who was first on the scene from the Air Force Base was Jesse Marcel, and Jesse Marcel was their #1 intelligence officer. So he wasn't the #1 confused or the #1 silly or stupid officer. He was the #1 intelligence officer.
He would be the guy to make the decision on what they found.
Right. Not only that, but he was the most advanced in radar and radar electronics. He was the only one there that had gone to these advanced schools, so he would know what would have been on either a weather balloon or Project Mogul balloon. He would have known.
There was a movie called Roswell where they did a reunion in the movie, like they reenacted this reunion. It was with Martin Sheen and a couple other big actors, but it was like a 25-year reunion of that bomber division. And Jesse was one of the guys, and he was there, and he's kind of still in the movie portrayed as being still disappointed about the whole thing, like he knows the truth, and it was really fascinating to see it from this point of view. Because
I think he took it very personally that they would kind of blame it on him, since he's supposed to know.
Like you said, like he's made a mistake here. I'm a dummy, when in fact, just and then so I found that to be pretty fascinating. And what was interesting in the movie is they show a guy in it saying, no, I was flying over in my helicopter, and there it was, this crashed UFO, the other piece. Yeah. And he was describing it, which was the first time I had heard that. Wow, so there's other people who witnessed it too from that same base, and that they would, vouch for it. But like I said, these deathbed confessions where so many people now have come forward on any conspiracy, JFK, obviously Roswell, or even just Area 51 people are coming forward. I mean, every conspiracy theory I've heard of has almost turned into fact. I don't know of too many where someone's actually said that was debunked in my, 30 years of just looking at this stuff.
I know. Have you ever driven out near Area 51?
I think
have
so,
not.
once as a kid, and I remember there were signs up. I said, what do all those signs say? And they basically, this was in the 70s, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And the sign said, do not go out here because it's like either live bombs or
Yeah.
we're bombing this area.
Yeah. So that'll keep you off, no matter whether you believe it or not. It's close to Las Vegas as the crow flies, but I think it takes 3 to 4 hours to drive because you got to go around.
Well,
And
they
it's
show
just- it's a
people
long
flying
way.
there from Las Vegas Airport, like to fly into work.
Right,
And it's
right.
a quick flight.
The Janus Airlines, what they're called. They're white 737s with a red stripe down them.
And that's
Yeah.
what they're taking into
Yeah.
to work at Area 51.
Right. Right.
Yeah, what
And
about the other Area
they
51?
have the
one in
windows
Utah?
closed. Well,
Have you heard of
they're-
that one?
Which one? Area 52?
Is that it? Yeah, in Utah.
Yeah, that is Dugway Proving Grounds.
Mm.
And it's huge. It's maybe the biggest single hugeness of a base, above ground anyway, in the country. And I don't know if you know the story about the 8,000 or 9,000 sheep that died just outside the gates there, which they believe was caused by something they were experimenting with. And
I've seen that.
There you go.
I've seen it. Well, I've seen it with. I'm not even there, but other places where the livestock around the military, these super secret military installations, because a lot of them have ranches around them,
Right.
where their livestock just turns out dead because, like you said, some death ray or something they're playing with.
And there's also cattle mutilations, which is a completely other.
Yes, completely
Uh,
different.
Yeah.
UFOs aliens taking the
Yeah.
the cattle whatever part.
Yeah. And
Some
they see
reason.
them drop from the ground sometimes, lots of black helicopters. I don't know. Some say it's the government just checking for hoof and mouth disease or whatever it is they talk about, and just checking I don't know about that.
They say that it's such the way that the items are removed off these animals, like they don't almost have the technology to do it because there's like no blood. It's
Right.
like, so I don't think I don't know unless we have that.
Let me ask you a question. Have you watched that new series? It's over now, on history about Skinwalker Ranch.
No, but I think you mentioned it.
Yeah, and they had some cattle mutilations there. Well, they have had, but on the show there was one, and it's pretty
Mhm.
strange.
Well, I've seen
Yeah.
it too. The eyeballs, the sex organs. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
But they said it's so surgical, the way it's done with no blood, no
Mhm.
footsteps coming up to it. It's very bizarre. But again, I believe it's just aliens. Same thing they do with humans, except they're not maybe mutilating humans, but they're still taking. Sometimes they're taking stuff from humans when they
Yeah,
abduct them.
I've heard of
An
some
ovary
stories.
and some other stuff. So.
I heard some stories in South America where they actually were killing humans or attempting to. So I don't know too much. There's so many. I mean, I watch all of these shows and series because I enjoy them. I mean, what the heck?
I love this stuff. I'm a big fan of the truth,
Some people are just stuck on these ghost stories. There's, and I find that fascinating too, but that's another subject. But I really like the UFO and all the mystery there. And I mean, you can't go there without thinking of a million conspiracies all at the same time.
Yes, I know. By the way, did you guys? Uncle Sam's here.
All
Hey,
right.
guys, happy
Hey.
4th.
And you too, and all your family. How is the family?
Good. We're still married, so.
All right. Well, what? This is a good thing, and I have a feeling you will be for a long time.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, and how are the in-laws with their reverse mortgage? I don't mean to bring up reverse mortgage. I'm just asking how they are.
Way to plug your business. No, they're doing great.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully, I'll see them this weekend. So
Good. Say hello.
I will.
Okay.
I will. What else do we got?
We got Bigfoot, of course. Now, let me just come out and ask you right away. Well, we got Skinwalker Ranch. I'd love to go there. I would love to. You should
where
read
is
it. It's in Utah.
In Utah.
And if you haven't read the book Hunt for the Skinwalker,
I'm not a book reader, so
You
you'll have to
should.
send me a link on an article or something,
yeah, I mean,
or a video.
there is so much. Bob Bigelow, you know who he is. He's a hotel, or he was actually more like a motel magnate in Las Vegas and made tons of money. He's got Bigelow Aerospace. He makes these enclosures for when you want to live on Mars or whatever. He's probably got his own satellite up there that he can float around in. He used to own Skinwalker Ranch and hired a whole bunch of scientists. And they did a lot of reports in there. And you can get to some of it in that book. Some of it is still secret for Bigelow Aerospace and or for the government. So, and then this last thing where Lou Elizondo came out with. He showed all that showed us that ATIP program there you go, included studies at this same Skinwalker Ranch. And you know, one thing is they're showing, and of course we don't get to see it till next year, that there might be a huge magnetic something or other underground that's causing a lot of this to happen, which could be opening different portals, different places, different things where they think they've seen animals come crawling in and then crawling out, which is a good segue to the fact that a lot of people think Sasquatch is either interdimensional or comes from somewhere else where he can crawl in and out through a wormhole. So what do you think?
That sounds very interesting.
It does, of course it does. I told you about. I don't want to get blue in the face saying the same thing over and over, but that thing I saw in Taos when I was waking up, because I had to do a number one in the middle of the night, and this wasn't sleep paralysis, because I was moving, and I saw this like a tetherball size globe or orb, really bright. This is inside the room. Huge, and it was smaller than a basketball a little bit, more like a tetherball, I would say. Very, very bright green, like an emerald green. And it was moving from right to left. And the second I locked eyes on it, it stopped and it zoomed back to the right, the other direction, and went through a slot. Now, I do have a good imagination, but I could never have thought of that. And
well, you know what's interesting? They have those. And they called them, there's a word for those. I used to see them in World War II, where there were these orange orbs that they would
them
follow.
Foo Fighters then, yeah.
Yeah, Foo Fighters. Did you see like a Foo Fighter?
It could be. Who knows? I mean, it was conscious. Does it mean that it was alive? I don't know. It could have been remote control. But it knew that I looked at it and it skedaddled immediately.
Really? Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. That's my claim to fame. So
that's interesting. That's a good one.
Yeah. So there is a lot going on about them saying that. Now, I don't know. Let's start off with me asking you, do you believe that Bigfoot is real?
100%.
Me too. I mean, there are so many witness reports, tens of thousands of witness reports.
Well, just they've been cited for, I guess, thousands of years.
Yeah.
And
right.
They're all over the world sightings. It's
and
not
we
like,
have, we
you
have
know, if it was just in one area I could see, but when it's North America, when it's Vietnam has a 100-mile section in one of their forests protected for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So they can live there.
That's right.
That's crazy.
Now we have the Yeti also, but that character seems to be not real friendly.
I don't know. Well, the other ones don't seem friendly either. They throw rocks. A lot of people say that they
but they don't try to eat you right away. So
I haven't heard of anyone getting attacked by them. That's
no. But we have reports of that in Russia and in Siberia, in the mountains. But the thing is, you know who Dr. Jeff Meldrum is? He's a professor of paleontology or something like that, and primate.
Mhm.
at a university up in, it's that state just east of Washington. What?
Okay, Idaho or something.
That's it. Thank you.
Is it?
So, but he, he's recognized all over the world around as, being somebody in the know, and he believes it's 100%. He's got the largest single collection of
Interesting.
casts, and what he tries to teach,
Cast, like foot cast.
right? And
A
he
foot
tries to tell to other scientists, you don't have to see one to believe it.
Well, they're hard to see. They appear to have some abilities to cloak. They almost describe it, and my, kind of fascinated watching this stuff recently, where it's like the Predator, where you kind of cloak itself a little bit, and they cannot get them on film, but they can record them talking, and they have hours and hours, I guess, of these Bigfoot conversing, and it's a trip. They said it almost sounds kind of alien too, like. Like,
hey,
it's just
you can't say that you can't say that on the air.
Like, it's just a crazy language. I can't even do it right, but it's fascinating. And they said that they said that they could float into a room, like you said, and be in the room, but you can't see them. And it's supposedly. So it's fascinating.
Well, back to this being able to prove it, that everybody says, I have to see one to believe it. How many of those people that say that have actually seen an electron? I mean, they all know what electricity does, but show me an electron, you can go on and on about all of that. We don't see those things with our eyeballs, but we see the evidence of it, so we accept it. There you go.
Yeah, well, there's enough. Like I said, I was always like, okay, I think they're real, but I want to see some. And well, this guy on one of these shows on Prime, he got one live looking through a bush. Real clear shot of his face, eyes blinking, but he had a super camera that shot like really far away because they're really good at hiding themselves. And it was fascinating watching this guy. He brings people out all the time, and he's like, there's 7 of them around us, and he can pick up on them, and they take his food, and there definitely appears to be real, which is a trip. They live in very hard to get to places where there's just no humans. Lot of forests around the world that are very dense, and
there's so much in that world no human has probably ever even seen.
They're almost like alien-like with their thinking, so I think they're real.
Yeah. Now, some people have said, and I've heard this several times, that the U.S. government, for one, absolutely knows they exist, and they've caught them, and this and that and whatever. But if they acknowledge it, then they have another big endangered species situation with the building, with the building industry, the lumber industry, and on and on. So who knows?
Yeah, I remember one time they said a little kid had walked out from his house, like in some rural area, and it was lost for 3 days. And they came back, and they were like, "What happened?" He said, "This bear was taking care of them." And they're like, "What? This bear's going to take care of them?" It was like a Bigfoot had like helped the kid out, I think.
Yeah. So Harry and the Hendersons, right? If you remember
I think
that.
they refer to them sometimes as rock apes is another word that they use to describe them, because they throw rocks at people. So as you're coming up to their area, they throw rocks at you.
And I guess they don't take a shower very often, so sometimes
they have a strong odor as well. They're
skunk apes,
like 7
feet,
too. 7 feet tall too. I mean, like you said, their casts. They said on some of the casts too, they're so good you can see the ridges on the toes, like the little ridges. So there's no way to fake it.
One guy had showed one where there was actually a problem with the bone in the foot, and it caused other things to look the way they did. And it's been said nobody would know that, nobody could fake it. So I am real happy that we were able to talk on the birthday of the United States of America and conspiracies. Yes, where we have more opportunity than anywhere else, and we give thanks for that. And we try to make use of that also. But I hope well, I think I can say this, that people look up chrisbissonnette.com, and that will speak for itself. He is an amazing resource. And you don't even have to talk about Bigfoot or UFOs with him, I promise. Although that might be more fun. Anyway, I have got to go. So remember, Kaplan will be here on the same corner in front of the same cigar store next week. Happy 4th of July, America, and everybody out there.